Have you ever felt that there is something greater happening all around you, but no one else seems to notice? As if there were a hidden pattern, an ancient story, echoing in the songs you hear, in the movies you watch, and even in the simplest moments of your day. And what if I told you that this story is the gospel? Not only as you read it on the pages of the Bible, but as a living presence woven into the details of existence in plain sight, even though many never perceive it. Why is it that so many narratives from different cultures and times repeat the same themes of sacrifice, redemption, and triumph over darkness? Why do these stories reach so deeply into the human heart? Is it mere coincidence? Or do we carry within us the imprint of an eternal message? Today, you are going to discover how the gospel has always been right in front of your eyes. From the buildings that shaped cities to the short videos that go viral on social media, from the great scientific discoveries to the quiet silence of a personal moment. Get ready. Once you see these hidden patterns, you will hardly ever see the world the same way again. And before we dive together into this journey, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's quick, but it makes all the difference so that more people can have access to this life-changing revelation. Because what you are about to hear may be exactly the key you were missing to open your eyes. Many times, when we speak about the gospel, our minds immediately picture temples, altars, and sacred books. For some, it is nothing more than a set of doctrines, something confined within the walls of a church or limited to a Sunday ritual. For others, it is a distant memory from childhood, tied to family traditions but disconnected from real life. And so, little by little, this message that was meant to pulse through every breath is seen as something distant. The gospel becomes, for many, a spiritual theory without any practical connection to daily life. And when that happens, life loses its colors. The world feels divided between sacred and ordinary, as if the presence of God were limited to specific places, while the rest of the day was just survival. The result? People living on autopilot, searching for purpose in fleeting achievements, trying to fill the emptiness with distractions, possessions, and momentary success. And yet, deep in their hearts, one silent question remains. Is there more to life than this? That is the great illusion. Believing that the gospel is merely doctrine, when in truth it is a living story, one that has always been present even in the smallest details. The reality is that many are looking without seeing, listening without perceiving. But here is the good news. When your eyes finally open, the entire world shifts its place. Suddenly, what once seemed ordinary is transformed into something extraordinary. It is like waking from a deep sleep and realizing that something has been whispering around you all along. And it is precisely into this awakening that we now enter, the echoes of the gospel resonating quietly in your everyday life. Look around you. What makes you get emotional during a good story? What brings tears to your eyes when you watch a movie, or makes your heart race when a song reaches its climax? Think of the great blockbusters. A hero who sacrifices himself to save those he loves. A character who faces his greatest weakness and finds redemption. A villain defeated, not just by force, but by an unexpected act of courage and surrender. Why do these plots move us so deeply? Because they echo a much greater truth, the gospel. Even without realizing it, you have already encountered this message countless times. In novels that speak of forgiveness, in series that explore the transformation of someone broken into someone restored, in viral videos showing small acts of kindness, all of them point, even without naming it, to the story of sacrifice and love that shapes the universe. And it's not only in entertainment, it's in ordinary life too. The mother who gives up her own rest to care for a sick child. The friend who stays when everyone else has already walked away, the stranger who helps someone fallen on the street. These scenes, seemingly insignificant, carry within them a reflection of the same eternal pattern, giving one's life for another. We call it coincidence, but is it really? Or could it be that in each of these gestures, the spark of the gospel insists on shining, even when no one names it? These echoes are everywhere, from Hollywood films to quick TikTok stories, from the pages of best-selling books to everyday accounts of resilience. The gospel is not just a distant memory. It is alive, shaping the narratives that resonate deeply within our souls, because our souls already recognize this pattern. And if we can see it in the details of our daily routine, imagine in the great stories that transcend generations and entire cultures. It is there that the ancient whispers become even more evident. Since the earliest peoples, humanity has always told stories. Around the fires of villages, on ancient scrolls, in the palaces of kings, there were always narratives of unlikely heroes, battles against overwhelming forces, and endings that carried hope. Curiously, no matter the continent or the culture, the storyline is almost always the same. A hero emerges out of weakness. He faces trials, is defeated, but finds redemption through sacrifice. Then he returns transformed, bringing victory to his people. Have you noticed how this pattern crosses through centuries? The Greeks told epics like those of Odysseus and Hercules. The Norse spoke of warriors fighting monsters and giants. Ancient peoples of the Americas recounted spirits descending to guide men. In modern times, we see the very same structure in films like The Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, Star Wars, or even in the superhero stories of Marvel. Why is it that all these peoples, separated by oceans and millennia, repeated the same pattern? Is it just a cultural coincidence? Or is there something greater, inscribed in the human soul? The truth is that all of these narratives are echoes of a single and greater story, the gospel. Christ is the hero who became fragile. He faced death, was defeated in the eyes of the world, but triumphed through the greatest sacrifice in history. And upon his return, he brought life and victory to all of humanity. This hero's journey, which Joseph Campbell called the monomyth, is not just a literary device. It is a deep reflection of the greatest truth that exists. Every time we cheer for the unlikely, every time we cry at the sacrifice of someone for the good of others, we are responding to the echo of this eternal narrative. That is why these stories never lose their power, because deep down they are all pointing to the same origin. The human soul longs for redemption, and the cultures of the world, in their diverse forms of art, have always given voice to that longing. And if we can recognize these ancient whispers in stories, we can also perceive them in the visible forms that shaped our cities. Art, architecture, and symbols that silently carry the mark of the gospel. The story of the gospel is not written only in words. It's been painted on walls, carved in stone, and shaped into stained glass that has endured through the centuries. Look closely, and you will see that art and architecture have always been silent channels of a much greater message. Step inside a medieval cathedral. Light filters through colorful stained glass and projects onto the walls, images of creation, the fall, the cross, and the resurrection. It is not just beauty. It is theology in colors, designed so that even the illiterate of the time could read the gospel with their eyes. Look at the architecture of the great Gothic churches. They were built to make visitors lift their gaze, as if the very building were an invitation to seek heaven. Every tower, every arch, every detail carried spiritual symbolism, the smallness of man before divine greatness, the centrality of the cross, the victory of light over darkness. But it was not only in the past. Even today, among urban murals, graffiti, and contemporary art installations, we still find echoes of the same message. Artists portray human struggle, the fight against injustice, the search for redemption. Many times, without even mentioning the Bible, they end up reflecting the central themes of the gospel. And it is not just about religious art. Think of paintings like those of Rembrandt, which captured the tension between human misery and divine grace. Or classical sculptures that express pain, hope, and transcendence. In every brushstroke, in every form, there is something that connects the human soul to the greater story of which we are a part. Art speaks what words cannot. It crosses barriers of language, culture, and time. And even though many artists may not consciously intend to portray the gospel, truth emerges nonetheless, because it is imprinted in the very fabric of reality. And if we can find the gospel in the symbols that shape churches and cities, imagine what happens when we look into the very laws of nature that sustain the universe. The next step takes us to the point where science and faith meet, and together reveal a grand design. For centuries, many believed that science and faith stood on opposite sides, as if they were enemies in an endless debate. But when we look closely, we notice something surprising. Science, instead of pushing us away, often points to an order, a harmony, and a beauty that echo the very heart of the gospel. Think about the universe. Astronomers speak of the fine-tuning of cosmic constants. Gravity, the nuclear force, the speed of light, all calibrated with mathematical precision, almost impossible to occur by chance. If just one of these values was slightly different, life would simply not exist. It is as if the cosmos were carefully adjusted to welcome you here, now. In biology, the mystery deepens even further. Within a microscopic cell exists a complexity so extraordinary that even the most skeptical scientists acknowledge its wonder. Molecular motors, DNA chains, mechanisms of self-replication, every detail seems like an invisible signature, a mark of design. And when we look at the human body, the heart that beats tirelessly, the brain that processes billions of pieces of information each second, the eyes capable of capturing color, light, and depth. Every part of us cries out purpose, intentionality, as if declaring, "You are not here by accident." Even mathematics, that universal language underpinning all sciences, reveals a hidden order. Why does the universe follow such precise patterns? Why do abstract equations, created in the human mind, so perfectly describe physical reality? It is as if creation itself were written in a language waiting to be decoded. Of course, science describes processes, but does it explain the ultimate origin of order? Or could it be that when we observe the elegance of natural laws, we are hearing a divine whisper? The gospel reminds us that, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And science, surprisingly, confirms that the universe had a beginning, that life has a complex structure, and that order is not the fruit of chaos, but of something greater. All this leads us to an inevitable question. If the universe, life, and even our bodies carry this mark of intentionality, what happens when this truth steps out of the science books and invades our personal lives? It is at this point that the revelation ceases to be merely cosmic and becomes intimate, transforming the way we see every detail of our own existence. Up until now, we've seen the gospel echoing in stories, in symbols, in works of art, and even in the secrets of the universe. But perhaps the greatest revelation happens when all of this stops being just external knowledge and becomes a personal experience. Because it's not enough to simply admire the stained glass of a cathedral or be moved by the plot of a film if this message doesn't break into your own life. The gospel is not just a grand narrative, it is an intimate invitation. Look at your routine. In the moments when you give something up to take care of someone, there is the reflection of sacrificial love. When you choose to forgive, even when you have every reason to hold on to resentment, you are reliving the mystery of grace. And even in the silence of nights when no one seems to see your effort, there is a voice that whispers, "I am here, and your life has purpose." Suddenly, washing dishes, studying, working, creating something new, all of it ceases to be ordinary. Each act can become a gesture of worship, a practical way of participating in this great story God has written. The extraordinary is not found in doing grand things, but in perceiving the divine in simple things. That is what changes everything. The gospel hidden in plain sight is not just an idea to admire. It is a lens that transforms the way we see the world. It teaches us that there is no separation between sacred and ordinary, because all of life, in every detail, is already filled with the presence of God. And when this revelation becomes personal, a new way of walking is born within us. A faith that doesn't depend on rituals, but on awareness. A spirituality that doesn't flee from reality, but illuminates it. A certainty that wherever you are, the gospel is already there, waiting to be recognized. And it is in this shift of vision that we reach the highest point of this journey, understanding that once your eyes are open to this truth, nothing is ever simply ordinary. Everything becomes sacred. We have reached the decisive point. Everything we've seen so far, the echoes in stories, the symbols in art, the order in the universe, the simple gestures of daily life, all point to one single revelation. The gospel was never hidden. It has always been right before you. It is as if suddenly you were given a new pair of eyes. The same world remains around you, but now it pulses with meaning. Every smile, every struggle, every victory, every tear, all of it belongs to a greater narrative, a narrative that connects the human to the divine. And this is the great transformation. When you perceive the gospel everywhere, nothing is ordinary anymore. Work is no longer just routine. Pain is no longer just suffering. Relationships are no longer just passing encounters. Everything becomes part of a sacred story. This is the invitation to open your eyes and see. To live with the certainty that there are no spaces empty of God, no days without purpose, no details without value. The gospel is in every step, in every breath, waiting to be recognized. Perhaps now you've realized that nothing in life is simply ordinary. The gospel has always been here, right before your eyes, revealed in stories, in symbols, in gestures, and even in the very universe itself. When we open our hearts to this reality, every detail becomes sacred. And if this message spoke to you today, don't forget to support this space. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel Inner Light, Infinite Wisdom, and activate the notification bell so you won't miss the next videos. Share this reflection with someone you love and write in the comments, where have you already noticed the gospel present in your life? I truly want to read your experience. Here, every video is an invitation to see the world with new eyes. So come back often, because our journey has only just begun. We'll see each other in the next video. Until then, keep your vibration high and your mind connected to the divine.